the key thing is not the metrics. So what Troy McGinnis and Larry and Julia Wested speak about a lot is it's not about the metric itself, it's about the trends of the metrics and how these metrics have some form of balance. And this is what what Troy focuses on or speaks about, called the six metrics or six metric dimensions to balancing or to balance. And you can find that on his website there on GitHub. I'm referencing him because he's an absolute legend on metrics. And what he says is a bit more nuanced. Actually, it's interesting as well. Is he speaks about the competing forces between metrics and how one metric may have a different reaction to another metric. And here you can see, for example, doing the right stuff or the valuable stuff has a competing force against being resilient, right? Or doing it fast, so having faster, speed, right, may have an impact upon predictability, right? So, or doing it right quality, i.e., the amount of bugs that you take out of the system, or how good you are at the quality metric, will definitely have an impact upon your throughput, right? If you're spending too much on quality, you may not get much done, right? But how much leverage do you put on each, right? So you can use these metrics, as I mentioned, in those 4 quadrants, and you can see it visualized the way that Troy does about trading wisely. He speaks about having different trades in the way that we measure, and not just having one metric to measure one thing. Don't be siloed about your metric. Don't just look at, for example, pace, which is cycle time. Look at other forms of metrics as well. Cool. So far, I've been talking to you all about something called delivery metrics or process metrics in the agile space. I haven't yet talked about value itself. As I mentioned, flow is one of your best strategies to get things done. And in the form of metrics, flow metrics are quite commonly in the Kanban community, are quite helpful in looking at those different 6 dimensions that Troy speaks about in his analysis as well. So I want to kind of bring this kind of full round circle a bit, really. So there is another dimension to this, and I would like to invent that and call it the 7th dimension. And the 7th dimension, I feel, is value in and of itself. And what I mean by that is if the 6 dimensions of balance so far, and all or most of the literature out there to date that I've been familiar with has been focusing on delivery metrics or process metrics, right? That's all great. That's fantastic. But what about value metrics? What about this thing called value itself? Why can't we? Sorry, I'm just going to change my background because I've just realized I've done something quite interesting. Cool. Can everyone see this, by the way? Everyone see my screen? So for the next part, I'm going to invite you to find where my camera is and spotlight me. Or Mindy, I may ask you to spotlight me, actually. I don't think there's a way to spotlight me in Zoom. I think there is if you're a host. If you're not, find my name on the gallery view. Go towards the right-hand side of your screen, hit gallery view, and then just pin me to your screen. That way will come a bit bigger. Can everyone see the white paper? Yeah. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Yeah, thumbs up. Thank you, Marjorie. Brilliant, fantastic. Thanks, Martin. Cool. So, as I mentioned, one thing is, so far we've been talking about everything about delivery, right? About how fast we're going, right? Or how slow we're going. And we're talking about, the value thing, right? Is somewhere in the middle. And so if flow is all about the movement of value, right? What about value itself? Why aren't we not talking about that itself? And we do sometimes, and we do an okay job of it. But I feel in the agile community or the global community, there isn't much focus on this thing. And a friend of mine, a fabulous expert in value itself, she's conducted some amazing research around this stuff. And what I'm discovering actually is how do we measure value, right? we're always constantly focusing on speed and quality and bug defects and change failure rate, like according to the Accelerate report and DevOps and this stuff. But what about value itself? How do we measure that? So I've been reading up on some other some interesting stuff about value. So we can look at business value in terms of many things, but in a nutshell, business value or value, when we're talking about value, has got different legs on it. And you've got stuff like commercial value. So how much net profit are we making per unit of time? What's our market share? Blah, blah, blah. Then you might have efficiency value, which is how fast are we going? How efficient are we becoming? We're saving X amount of percentage of cost, etc. And then you might have customer value, which people talk about. And if you look at Amazon and other big organizations, they focus on this particular value quite often, about the customer. What is the customer? Customer value. What does the customer want, etc. You might also have the user value. You want to improve the user experience, right? And you've got customer experience indexes and user indexes to find out, well, actually, if someone goes to this website, they go to this web page, and this web page. How can we improve this user value, overall? And then you've also got regulatory value, or maybe it's regulatory / risk value. How much fines have we just saved from our bank, right? Maybe we work for a bank, or we work for a regulated institution like the government, and we've now prevented ourselves from GDPR fines of whatever the percentage that is, and now we've saved 10 million quid by having this new field in our system where we report on DPIA or data protection impact assessments, or whatever it might be. What other values do you feel that I haven't mentioned here? There's probably quite a few. Feel free to put it in the chat group or just shout them out.
What about employee value, Haroon?
Yeah, employee
learning growth. Yeah,
absolutely. Employee value. How about our people? I think it was Richard Branson, wasn't it, recently, that said that we should look after our people and the product will work itself, or something like that. Or one of these.
that might be me. That might be me, Haroon. Look after the people and the products will take care of itself. That's my motto.
I'm going to put that Nick P here. We call this employee value. Absolutely, employee value. Yeah, and there's probably a heap of values that I haven't even mentioned on it, by the way. But how do we track this stuff? So